tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely.
So I had a dream and I thought it fit in the realm of scary stories. So last night I had a dream that I happened to be going to somewhere that was a distance and I was going to go see friends. And so it was like a road trip I was having by myself. So I was on the car and I started, I remember putting gas and then I got in the car and I was like, okay, it's time to take off. It happened to get dark as I was driving. So I guess I had been driving for quite some time at this point. And as I was driving, I at one point heard like from a distance, like I've driven from Chicago to San Antonio before and vice versa. And it's a really long distance, but there are roads that are it's nothing but land and grass and that's all. And it's almost the exact same thing. And it was as it was getting really pitch dark, I remember because I had the windows down in my dream and I could hear the whistle of the wind, just, just coming into the car. And I remember hearing, "Where are you going?" And I was all, "What? Where are you going?" And I was like, and so in my dream, of course, I'm looking around and I remember looking through the rear view and there is the shape of a woman's body. And I could tell it's a woman's body because it seemed feminine in nature, meaning it wasn't like stacked or bulky on the shoulders or anything like that. It just had a feminine shape to it. And I was all, what are you doing in my car? Where are you going? And I said, and I remember in my head told me in my dream, don't get scared. Just respond. And I said, oh, I'm headed to my friend's house. I said, we're gonna go to a party. Can I go? And I said, I don't know if you can go. You're not invited. I just wanted to clearly put like a boundary in my dream. I said, you're not invited, so you can't go. And you really couldn't see much of the eyes. It was just a very dark, very, like, you know how you see that white part of it? That's all you saw. And I remember I was like, I'm sorry you can't go. And it was just silence. And it was silence for like what felt forever. I'm gonna go. And it was a very stern, I'm gonna go. And I didn't know what to make of it. And I remember my dream. I was like, my heart was racing. My hands were clammy. Like as I was driving, I was gripping the wheel harder. And I remember that we passed what looked like a bus stop. And it was just a rare, like the bus stop didn't even belong there. It was just a bus stop and it had like just a seat. So like a little bench is, so the bench was there. And I remember saying, maybe you should catch a ride home. I said, but I'm sorry you can't go with me. I'm going. And now the voice seemed to be almost childlike. And I said, sorry, sweetie, you can't go. Mind you, I can't see anything other than the shape and the darkness of her. And I said, sorry, you've got to get off, sweetie. And all I remember is as I was saying, sorry, you got to get off, because that's all I kept repeating. Sorry, you got to get off, sweetie. 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 So almost felt like a record player, when it scratches and sorry, you got to get off, sweetie. Sorry, you got to get off, sweetie. I remember that there was like a hand on my shoulder and it gripped and it felt like it gripped it really tight and it started burning. And I was all, and I didn't react. All I know that I just had to keep going. And I just kept on driving. And what felt like there was no houses and no buildings coming. There was no light, but the light from the car that was showing the road. That's it. That's all I could really see. And all I heard was, we're both going. And I was all, and at that moment, I was trying not to get scared, but the voice was, I could still see the shape in the back from the rear view mirror, but the voice didn't come from the back. It came from the side right next to me. And I was at this point gripping and praying. At this point, I knew I was asleep, and I was like, you got to get up. You got to get up. And I was, you're not going with me. No one's going with me. And I stood my ground, and they're like, and that's all I heard. Yes. And it was so weird because the yes kept getting closer and closer, and it almost vibrated my ear with how it hissed. Yes. And I was like, oh my God. You know when you want to like grab your ear, or you just want to kind of like, I wanted to do this to my shoulder and this to my ear. But all I did is I told myself, they're not welcome and you're not welcome. They're not welcome. You're not welcome. They're not welcome. You're not. And I remember just suddenly waking up, and thankfully it was a dream, but it was one of those dreams that it scared me it scared me really well. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. Okay. Bye.